Yeah.
I, I don't know why they did or they didn't. Look, you buy what you like. The investing thing is a whole separate aspect of this. But I said, you know what? I think I'm going to regret it if I don't do this, regardless of what the print run is.
Mhm.
I think it's a cool card. It's a conversation piece. So I went with it.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where I saw it and I'm like, oh, this could be the potential Mike Trout Ermsey, and it's just like you got to get in there because if you don't buy it, you're going to be kicking yourself for doing it. It's
Yeah.
it's been a really interesting set. I would chat about this because I'm really into it, but I was just thought it was the new artists haven't really embraced their artistry yet. Like they've done the cards, and I'm looking forward to their second, third, fourth cards when they kind of really go into what they're going to do there.
Right.
And that's when the set's going to be really interesting.
Well, I mean, if you look at Project 2020, that really is true. I think there are a couple of artists who were very consistent beginning to end. But if you look at JK5, for example, he was straight, black and white. I don't know what medium he used, but straight black and white at the beginning. And then, not that the cards got more intricate in terms of, Easter eggs and all that, but he added color and then more color and more color. And it was very interesting to see. Ermsey was pretty consistent beginning to end.
Mm.
Um, Blake experimented a bit, as things got towards the end, but he said that he had a vision from the beginning. And I think, everybody, if you look at their sets as a whole, you can see an evolution, but it doesn't look like they don't all belong together.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, because I caught in part of Blake's interview. Well, we're live now, by the way. John's made us live, so don't worry. So if you're tuning in right now, it's fine. We're talking Project 20 and Project 70, and we'll get into Donna's work in a bit. We're waiting for John to make his appearance and say hello. But yeah, Blake had said like his vision was these 20 sets of cards that looked similar that was there. And he said it was Old Man Allen when he did the 20 Gwyn card and went, wait, that's not what it's supposed to be. And decided, okay, well, you can kind of embrace that more and more. And yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. I know Ermsey had said he had pretty much done his whole set already before everything had come out. So I thought that was interesting that he
Yeah.
knocked him out that quickly. So
Well, I think if you feel moved, do it. Don't wait just to wait. And who knows, what other commitments these guys have. I mean, like Grotesque isn't doing Project 70 because he had another commitment.
yep.
And he just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. So, I know Blake has said that he wants to get a little ahead, but who knows what else is going to come up. So it's always good to have a little bit extra, in the bank, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. You might as well. So yeah, no, it's fun. I'm really enjoying the sets there. It's a little Yankee and Dodger heavy at the moment.
It really is. And, the interesting thing is that the artists have submitted their list of players. And my understanding is that there's some wiggle room there because they're trying to get licensing for certain people. And I guess they've given the players a little, but not the players, the artists a little bit of carte blanche to, if you decide to change your mind and, or if we end up getting licensing for somebody else. But what's interesting is that the players keep saying players, the artists have submitted their set list, if you will. Topps is picking what order they're going in.
Yeah, exactly.
So, right. So if you have people who, using Lauren Taylor as an example, Lauren Taylor's first two cards are Yankee cards. Lauren Taylor's 20 card set is not all Yankees.
Yes. Yeah.
I've heard some rumors that there may be some people that are doing single team sets.
Ooh,
not
right.
20, yeah, not 20 cards because there's those two wrapper WRAPPER cards.
Yes, the wrapper cards,
there,
yes.
Right. Then there's some people who are saying, wait, they're making cards of wrappers? No, not like Tupac wrapper, like
hey, Snoop's in the set.
Right, Snoop's in the set, and Action Bronson is in the set, right? So but yeah, so it's I don't understand the Topps logic. behind why, if Lauren Taylor has 18 players, and I don't know how many of them are Yankees, I know at least the first two are, why is it Yankee back to back? She peaked her second card today.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. It's a cool looking card. Like, I've been following Lauren for quite a bit now. And I'm a big fan of her work.
Yeah, me
too. So we had a suggestion for this. We thought they should have done a fantasy baseball style draw where you go, okay, there's like 40 Trouts in the free, you can pick your thing there, and then you go a snake draft, and that way you can at least have a lot more variety.
That would have been really cool. And to be honest, I almost would have liked to see none of the Project 2020 players in
exactly
Project 70.
Yeah, to see Fuki do a Trout right off the bat. I mean, I can understand him doing it, but yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, we're going to see that. And Keith Short's doing an 86 Tony Gwynn, which I'm a big fan of both, but I'm kind of like, I don't need another Tony Gwynn card.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, right? Buy what you like and see how it goes.
John's become a really big fan of Joshua Vides now. He only knew that about this morning. So.
Well, you fell in love with the Thurman?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big Thurman Munson fan, and that design was fantastic.
Yeah, I remember where I was when I heard the news about his plane going down, and it was like they say, "Where were you when?" That's one of my "Where were you when" moments.
Mm. Yeah, fortunately, I hadn't been born yet at the time. I think that if I were the age I am now, I can only equate it to if Derek Jeter, God forbid, had been involved in a plane accident or something like that during my time growing up. I can't imagine the reaction I would have had if I was that age back in 1979. Just you don't expect that to happen to an athlete who's in his prime.
Right.
I mean, look at even Kobe last year. He died when he was 41 years old. He had also retired a couple of years back, but it was still just such a shock.
Yes.
I don't even think that the ripple effect of the shock of Kobe dying last year still hasn't really set in for most people, I don't think. Just absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's another one of those, that I was home, the news broke late at night, but it's almost, you heard it and you're like, no, that can't be true. That can't be true. And sad. Very, very, very sad. Okay, but we're not here to be sad. So that was my fault. That was my fault. I brought up the plane crash. That was my fault.
That's all good.
We're here to be happy, and we're here to try and make some people happy.
That's right.
So with that in mind, welcome everyone to Ball Caps and Bagpipes NLBMArt Webcast. I am John of Ball Caps and Bagpipes, and I am slightly late tonight. Sorry, Jason. I may or may not have been napping.
I'm the other half of Ball Caps and Bagpipes. I'm Jason Durr. I'm former president of Baseball Scotland. I'm in Edinburgh, Canada. Got my shirt, repping the shirt tonight. John's got his Comets hat because lockdown is almost over for us. There's potentially baseball happening for us, so we're pretty excited. I think we've got, a month and a half to go, potentially, John?
Hopefully, yeah. Obviously, there's been big news today that from this Friday coming, there will be non-contact sports will be allowed to resume with crowds of up to 15 people. So while there won't be any games for the time being, we will hopefully be able to train in smaller groups starting from this weekend, and that could hopefully be the first step in getting this season underway this year. I think, Jason, for our sanity, we need a season this year.
Don, just to give you, John was bald before the lockdown started, and then John was absolutely destroyed because he was supposed to rejoin baseball after taking 2 years off, John, and so he's dying to get back on the field again. So he's pretty excited.
Well, hopefully soon.
Missed the 2016 season and most of the 2017 season. Came back in 2018, played a bit in 2019, and then decided, my body can't handle it. I'm about to become a dad, so I'm just going to chuck it. But then I reconsidered and decided to come back last year. So
Maybe could have been worse.
yeah. So if anything, I mean, I'm probably going to be a couple of steps slower.
You and everybody else. So
yeah, well,
you know.
hopefully. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Scottish baseball tonight. All Caps with Bagpipes Season 3 is coming. We are joined by an excellent guest, a woman that we can't wait to speak to. With it being International Women's Day yesterday, it's only fitting as well. Please introduce yourself, Donna Muscarella.
Hi, my name is Donna Muscarella. I'm thrilled to be here. Let's go.
All right. And so you haven't been on the show before, so I'd like to start off by asking about your baseball background. When you were growing up, did you follow a particular team? Do you have any particularly strong memories growing up watching baseball? And did you play baseball growing up? If so, to what level and what positions did you play?
Okay, I did not play organized ball growing up. I played softball I was a summer camp counselor in high school and college. And we used to do either, for the time when it was a 4-day camp, we would do Friday morning softball co-ed, and then we would do Saturday morning once it went to a 5-day program, but nothing serious, just us on a field in a park, nothing insane. So we'll skip that. The fun stuff. So I consider myself to be a 4th generation baseball addict. My great-grandfather was a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan. We went over there every Sunday after Mass, and there was only one place you were going to find him: in his chair in the corner of the dining room, of all places, because Brooklyn apartments are small. So he had his recliner chair in the corner of the dining room with transistor radio, earbud in one ear, and if there was a second game going on, there was a second radio up to the other ear. And that's where it all started for my dad, as well. He got the influence from his grandfather, my great-grandfather. He was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan also. My dad's dad was a Yankee fan who grew up in Manhattan. So that was a little bit of an interesting dynamic there. And when, they'd go to as many games as they could, and whether Yankees, Dodgers, Giants, so, there were 3 teams at that time in New York. So you had, plenty to choose from. And when the Dodgers jumped ship, it was a natural transition from my dad to become a Yankee fan. He had already, been tuned into the Yankees thanks to his dad. And there was Mickey Mantle, who my dad adored. Gil Hodges was his favorite Brooklyn Dodger. He had a few that he loved, but Gil Hodges was his guy. And when the Dodgers went to California, he said, I need baseball. And the Yankees were, the logical choice. So he immediately really became a Yankee fan. I came along. I was born in Puerto Rico. My dad was in the service. So first chance we had to go to a Major League Baseball game, I was 2.5 years old. Yes, I do remember it, which is insane to think about. I couldn't tell you specifics of the game. I remember coming up out of the subway, seeing the ballpark for the first time, and just being utterly amazed. In those days, TV coverage was minimal, and they certainly weren't showing you the outside of the ballpark. So to see that was crazy great. I remember going through, them taking the tickets, going through the turnstile, walking through the tunnel from the concourse to the ballpark, to the seating bowl, and seeing the field for the first time. It literally took my breath away. I stood there and I went, oh, and just kind of stopped. And that's what I remember about my first game. And it was pretty great.
Amazing.
So,
do you have any other favorite Yankee memories from growing up?
Yeah. One other thing about general tradition of my dad and I going to games, I was always short for my age. I'm only 5 feet tall now. So, to take a 2.5-year-old or, a kid to a ball game and sitting them on a seat, what are you going to see? You know, so my dad used to save up. He'd buy the newspaper every morning. And when he knew that, you know, we were coming up on a game, he'd start saving the papers. And we would go to the ballpark. We'd have to take a city bus and a subway. He would carry, you know, a stack about, well, you can't really, I mean, a huge stack of newspapers in a paper bag. We'd get to the ballpark. In those days, the ushers wore suits and had these almost look like dust mops, you know, that they would wear on their hands. They'd walk us down to our seats. He'd clean the seat off. My dad would put the, you know, seat down, put the papers on, sit me on top of the papers, and we'd sit and we'd watch the game. He kept score. He taught me how to keep score. And then after the game, we would just leave the pile of newspapers under the seat and go home and start a new pile. In terms of specific favorite Yankee memories, I remember the last game at original Yankee Stadium. My dad took me to that game.
Yankees and Orioles?
No.
Oh, the original Yankee
yes,
Stadium.
original.
For the
Yeah.
renovations in 76?
Before the renovations, yes. So we went woefully unprepared to take parts of the ballpark home with us. So, you know, it was the ushers were renting screwdrivers so that people could take things apart. We have our seat plates, not the seat plates, but, you know, on the kind of on the railings, there were brass plates. So we have those. And then we managed to get down on the field, and there were Catholic nuns in full habit with burlap sacks and shovels, just shoveling the grass into these sacks. And all we had were like, well, what are we going to use? So my dad had a little plastic container full of Tic Tacs, breath mints. So he dumped out the Tic Tacs and we shoved it full of grass, and that's what we did. So that was a really, you know, very fond memory for me. I mean, you know, anytime I was at the ballpark with my dad was fun. You know, it was something, it was a me and him thing, you know, and it was something I absolutely adored. I did not get to the first game at renovated Yankee Stadium, but I was there for the last game. Mm-hmm. And I was there for the first game at current Yankee Stadium.
Oh goodness, I remember that being a bad day at the office for the Yankees. I think CC Sabathia in his first home start as a Yankee got lit up, and I think it was 10-5 Indians.
It was something like that. It wasn't a great game, but you know what?
Season, no.
It was a phenomenal season, and with all the pomp and circumstance and everything, I didn't care. I mean, obviously I cared how the game went in the context of our season, but just to be there, that was good enough for me. It was good. I mean, we had. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Now, you've been to sort of 3 different versions of the stadium. Which would you say is your version of choice?
Well, the original, just because it was just so much more majestic. The sight lines were horrible. They were, you know, the big steel, you know, beams. But from a sentimental standpoint, it's kind of a tie between the original and the renovated original, if you will. But if we could take away the beams and have that original ballpark again with the facade going, it was just, you know, and the monuments in the fields of play, it was just such a spectacular, amazing place. There were great things about the renovated one too, because the upper deck was so low that, you know, it was there really, I don't want to say there wasn't a bad seat in the house, but there weren't many bad seats in the house. And, you know, to be able to be that close to the action and not have to pay an arm and a leg to do it was pretty cool. You know, that was, and the Monument Park in the second version of Yankee Stadium versus now was just such a great place to just go and you know, see the plaques and see the monuments. And it was a nice, cozy little, and Monument Park really was a very accurate name for it. It was a cute little cutout, you know, and yeah, I mean, the current ballpark is,
of
Corporate. Yes, that's a
State,
good
state
way
of
to
the
put it.
art, yeah. It's state of the art, but it's a lot
Yeah.
of the personality and character has kind of gone from it. I've unfortunately never had the pleasure of visiting any of the iterations at Yankee Stadium, and it will always be one of the great regrets in my life that I never got a chance to go to the house that Ruth built. I get to play in it in the video games. I suppose that's a close second these days with the graphics, but
Well,
let's move on.
yes.
Let's move on from the Yankees and talk about your photography and art. How did you become involved in, first off, photography? Because this is a bit of a different, this is a different thing than we've been talking to most people about. We haven't really spoken to any photographers that I can remember, Jason.
Well, we can take a step back and ask about how she found out about us. So that's probably a better question to ask her. So how did you find out about us to join the Negro League Art Museum the fundraiser obviously is when you right there, but that's probably a way to take a step back before we get into it.
Yeah, well, my recollection is that, Project 2020, well, let's take a step back before Project 2020, right? Pandemic, right? Spent a lot more time on social media than I would have before, and started getting more involved, engaging with other hobbyists. And then along came Project 2020, oh, this one follows this, let me follow this, let me follow that. And I think the first card artist that I came across was probably Heavy J. Mm-hmm. And, aside from
I love Heavy J.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is absolutely awesome. So aside from, the artists who, and I don't want to say pros and not pros, because art is art, right? So the people who were designing cards for Topps versus the people that were designing one-of-ones, kind of, there was a lot of overlap there for obvious reasons, where social media, you kind of connected the dots or followed the breadcrumbs. And so, I learned about Heavy J. I learned about Third Dan Art. I learned about now, one of the guys who's come into my social media stream a lot is Garcia Studios. There's tons. And so probably through the Heavy J and Dan Baumfeld connection is how I learned about you guys initially. And then just my general interest in the Negro Leagues and it being the 100th anniversary, there was a lot of similarities there, and just kind of led me happily, very, very happily, to you guys and to, the card art community in general. Before we went on camera, I was saying to Jason that I think one of the best things about collecting and the card art community is the friends that you make, the people that you meet. Stuff is stuff, and stuff is cool, and it makes us happy, but it's not the same as friendships.
So. Absolutely agree. Yeah.
I mean,
you'd say that.
There's a bit of a backstory there. So Donna had happened to win one of my auctions for my shop, and she reached out. She didn't realize she had won, and I had mailed it to her, and she's like, I've got this signed photograph here from Monty Irvin. Am I correct? Is that what it was?
No, it was Newcomb.
Don Newcomb, yes. And then we started up a small conversation there and realized we had both for our passion of card art and Project 2020 there. And that's where the conversations had started. And we've had many more conversations from there as well.
Many more conversations after that. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It was actually a prize from the first NLBMArt event. That's what it was.
Right.
And I had completely forgotten about it. And I'm like, hey, I got this really awesome thing in the mail. Why?
Hopefully I put my business card in there. I can't remember if I did or not.
Yeah, well, that's how I found you. And I was like, okay. I mean, it's awesome. I was, but I don't want to take something that wasn't mine. So I just wanted to make sure I was going to be like, oh no, somebody sent this the wrong place. I'll just keep it in shush. And
no, because we got that from Beckett Media. So we got that from Eric Norton, and he had sent those to me, and then I used it for my raffle for what we did out here. So yes, I sent.
Eric's another cool guy.
Yeah, I know. I reached out to Eric. He's his poor wife has gotten COVID right now, so I don't know if you noticed that or not. But Yeah, exactly. So he's doing well. So he's got 2 boys he's keeping busy. I told him to take him fishing. I think you can go social distance on a boat somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
So, but
Ooh,
he's doing well. He was doing a show tonight. I know that much because his 2 of his guests had dropped out. And he
I
was
saw that.
the guest there. So I hope somebody enjoyed Eric. Eric's great. I've caught his show a couple times there, and he does a really good job. So
Yeah. He and I have talked because he's kind of in the back of his head, he's thinking about maybe starting to do some custom cards himself. I know he's put a lot of his art up. So Heavy J said, hey, you guys need to talk.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I love this. Where everyone kind of knows everyone, and everyone's super
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
I think it's the National. We all need to meet up at the National. Not this year. Next year.
Next year, I would so love to do that. I was really disappointed because this year, even though it's not around the corner, people say, oh, it's all in the same state. Well, okay, it's still, 3.5, 4 hour drive to get down to Atlantic City for me. It was in my home state.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's okay. I hopefully 2022, hopefully.
So John doesn't know what the National is. So the National is like the Yankees of collecting. We'll put it that way. That's a good analogy. So you would go there for the cream of the crop of sports memorabilia and sports cards, and it's a huge thing. I only really realized that about 2 or 3 years ago.
Notice how accommodating he's being about the Yankees this evening. He's very nice. All of a sudden about the Yankees.
I could have said Dodgers. I went Yankees was a good analogy. I thought that'd be
on the subject. I think we might actually, for the first time, have to ban someone from the stream because Stephen Loudon has piped in with his favourite Yankee memory, and of course, it is the Yankees losing to the Diamondbacks. So we're gonna have to.
No, boo!
Stephen, don't make me send the boys round.
But yeah, so the National is just this huge sports convention. You would have all the top dealers are there. They would have the cards that go for hundreds of thousands of dollars that show off and like that. And it is absolutely amazing. I've never been. Have you been, Donna?
I have not.
No. I follow it on Instagram, and the photos of the stuff there just blows my mind. So yes, so that's the goal. We've got two buddies. One's turned 50, one's turned 45. So I figured it was a perfect time to go out that way and celebrate their birthdays and go catch it that way.
Yeah. Is the closest I've come to the National, which is not collecting centric, but it's just a bunch of baseball joy in a giant convention center, is the Fan Fest for All-Star Weekends.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's an absolute blast, and you'll have some dealers there, and Topps will be there, and Panini will be there, and whatever. But I mean, the National is that to the
on steroids.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that because that has a whole other
We're a baseball show. We can talk openly about steroids.
This is true. Yes. But yeah, it's like the National, from what I understand, is like Fan Fest on steroids.
So it's interesting you mentioned Fan Fest, and you told me off air that you volunteered at the Yogi Bear Museum. Did you volunteer for Fan Fest? I'm only asking because I did the one in Seattle. So
I volunteered for Fan Fest in the context of manning the display area and the merch booth for the Yogi Berra Museum. So I wasn't able, I wasn't wandering as an MLB representative. I was there repping the Yogi Museum in 2008.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it was fun. I did the one in Seattle, and I don't even remember who I was repping, but I wandered off quite a bit.
How can you not? I wonder if we could have crossed paths and not even realized it because I was there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gosh, I remember I won a box of 2001 Bowman, and I got each a rookie card. And I was excited.
Oh, sweet. Ding, ding.
So I got it shipped over, but I don't have it yet. It's in my case back home at somewhere there. But yes, so I'm quite excited about that. But yeah. That was
a great time. The Mariners were having such a great year that year, and Ichiro had just I don't want to say come over, right? And the electricity in that ballpark was something different from I had gone. Last All-Star game I did before that was 98 in Denver.
Right. Okay.
And and then I did 2002 and 2003. So I have a few to compare it to. And then I did 2018 in DC. And the energy in Seattle, because of just what was going on with the team at that time, was really something very special.
Plus, you had Sammy Sosa. Everyone was trying to see if Sammy could put one out of the stadium.
No comment.
Well, I think the only person that's come close enough to actually putting one out is Aaron Judge. So I'll get back in the good side here. So
yeah.
Have I sucked up enough to you guys tonight?
We need to have a Yankee fan on every week.
Okay.
He's normally not this polite about the Yankees. We're about halfway through our time here, so let's start talking about your work, Donna. Obviously, you're a photographer. Talk to us first about how you got into photography, how that then fused with your love of baseball, and where that's gone, and what you're working on now.
So I started, I don't know, I just kind of always had an eye for it. There's no photographers in my family. It was just something that I just always had an eye for, wanting to preserve things. I think, I'm a very sentimental person. And I think the idea of being able to preserve memories is very important to me. And I also, I don't know, I see a cool animal or a flower or a cloud or whatever. I feel, oh, that's really cool. And I like to just play with it. I think a combination of that and the baseball cards of my youth and just those, classic posed shots, holding out, the bat in front of you, or, holding the ball, or the portraits. There's just something really special about those. I mean, not to knock the photographers that are, putting their stuff on cards today. It's a different animal. Things have evolved, but, they still produce Topps Heritage, and they do it for a reason. And so I think just the combination of those things, okay, I love baseball, I love photography, and it was just kind of a natural progression for me. And not just in the sense of, oh, well, I'm at this game, let me capture, and I've been lucky enough to capture some, pretty spectacular moments, but just by chance, because you don't know what's going to happen, So it's just two things that I love that just naturally kind of meld together.
So let me back off of that and ask you a question here. If you could photograph any moment in Major League history, what would it be?
Ooh,
and how would you approach it?
That's Loudon's choice.
That's any moment in Major League history. I think I'm going to say Lou Gehrig's farewell speech.
Yeah.
Great answer.
I mean, just the setting, the emotion, the people that were there. I mean, I'm kind of, it's going to sound corny, but I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Just the it's not always about the action, and I'm not usually one to want to do, like pose shots of my friends. Oh, take pictures of my kids. I'm like, okay. And I do it and I have fun doing it because I get the kids to ham it up and whatever, but I'd much rather be in the ballpark taking pictures. So I think just that and the whole emotion of that day, I think is something that if I could pick one thing, I think it would be that.
That's a great answer. Think about what Gehrig means to Yankee history and baseball history. Obviously, yes. Jason, as you covered on the podcast before, Gehrig, the first Major League player ever to have his number retired. So he obviously has a massive, massive impact on baseball history.
Yes.
And for him to bow out with the dignity and the class that he did under the circumstances that he left under,
yes,
says it all about the man. So yes. I would certainly agree with that as one of the moments that you would want to photograph. Let's move on to your artwork and your baseball cards. I believe I read somewhere that you base your style off of, was it 1937?
1933 Gaudi. This particular set Gaudi. Was 1933 Gaudi. Yes, and I did that because this set came out of a desire to want to pay tribute to the Negro Leagues. And I originally, it was going to be just a single card, and for that tip your cap campaign that they did. Yeah. And so the problem was finding a place to take the picture was proving difficult in a pandemic. It wasn't safe to go here. This was closed, that was closed. So I said, I'll forget it. I'm not going to do it. I mean, I'd love to, but who wants a picture of just me, tipping my cap in my backyard? What's that? So I said, forget it. And so then I started looking into other things that I could do with collecting, to feed the collecting habit. And with cards not easy to come by because of what happened in the hobby, I said, well, I don't really want to go the card route. And so I said, well, maybe I could start looking at getting postcards of stadiums where they had played Negro Leagues games. So I didn't really get very far with that project at all, because I found out that there was a stadium still standing about 10 miles from my house. Right. And so that got put on the back burner, and I said, I got to go to this place. And so we went from a single card of me standing with, I mean, if you could have seen my face, my brother went with me that day because I needed somebody to take the picture of me. And I was planning to do it in front of the stadium gate. And we drove up to the ballpark, which there's a little side story about that, which I'll put on hold for now. And if we have time, I'll tell you. And we're approaching the ballpark, and there's this huge, beautiful mural of Larry Doby. And I'm like, that's the spot. I don't care about the gate. That's the spot. So, so the card came out of that. And then I said, but wait, there's this whole rest of the stadium. So I walked around and I said, what do we have here? What can I work with? I'm going to do a little set. And that's kind of, how it started. And I went back a couple of times, and, different lighting, I want to try this a little differently. Because once you try and start actually putting them on cards, you realize, oh, well, if I only had done this like this, or had only done this like that. So, and I came up with the idea of, let's take people on a trip to Hinchliffe Stadium for the first time. And so that's how we did the 4 cards of the gate, arriving at the stadium, the ticket booth, buying your tickets, walking into the entry area, and then the actual seating bowl. And then I said, okay, well, I want to make these. Oh, we lost Jason?
Jason. I think Jason will be right back. He's probably having some.
All right. Okay. So, so I said, all right, now for the back of the cards. And I said, well, how are we going to do this? And I thought, I don't want it to just be a random design. I want it to kind of have meaning across the board. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I said, well, in 1933, the Colored World Series, what they called it, was played at Hinchliffe Stadium. Mm-hmm. And, 1933 Goudeys are just such classic, clean looking cards. I said, that's it. So it all kind of, really nicely came together, in terms of an idea. And then it was a matter of just putting the idea into action.
Amazing. Talk to me more about the process of putting that into action. How was the set received? Did you? Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
I'm back. My crash. I use my phone now.
Hello.
Sorry about that.
Access all areas here tonight. It's we're getting the behind the scenes angle.
Yeah, good thing my phone's fully charged. All right, I'll fix this.
Technology is great until it isn't, right?
Yeah, I blame my 160-year-old toilet for all my problems. There we go.
Oh.
That's more like it, Jason.
I heard as much as Larry Dolby, but I know the story behind that. So
yeah.
So Donna's been to Hinchcliffe Stadium. She's taken all the photographs. She's taking people on a kind of tour so to speak, and she's now releasing the set, I believe, in the story. So talk to us about putting that out, how it's been received, and what you have coming up next.
Yeah, I've received so much positive feedback about the set. Heavy J was nice enough when he, heard about the set. He interviewed me for the Saber Baseball Cards blog. And, the number of people who've reached out to me that I've engaged with, I've got a tweet from Josh Gibson's grandson. I mean, how cool is that? I've gotten recognition from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and just, fans literally all over the country and now all over the world. Hello, UK. The idea behind this was first and foremost to pay tribute to the Negro Leagues. But the other thing that I wanted to do with this, which is why I put facts about the Negro Leagues as they relate to Hinchliffe Stadium on the backs of the cards, is I want people to look at this set and be inspired to learn more about the Negro Leagues. And, if I've done that, I'm thrilled. It would be great to sell, the very small print run of 50 sets, but if the idea is, if each person who sees the cards and reads the cards tells two friends, about the Negro Leagues and about, the amazing history there and the players and how they really, you want to talk about triumphing in the face of adversity. I mean, there's really no better example. And I think we all have a lot to learn from that. And I think if people kind of followed that example, I think the world would be a much better place. So
I've said the same thing so many times. Yeah, I completely agree. The Negro Leagues and the history of the black game has so much to teach all of us about perseverance, about tolerance, about, like you say, the amount that they've triumphed against adversity in such a way that, and it's adversity that should never have existed in the first place. It's been manufactured by the insecurities of people who were just ignorant, for the most part. And so to see what Negro League baseball did for baseball in the long run, in terms of where we are now, where CC Sabathia retired last year, is one of my absolute heroes. And 100 years ago, I would not have had the opportunity to see him pitch in the Yankees uniform. Ken Griffey Jr., one of the best athletes of any of our lifetimes. Jason wouldn't have gotten a chance to watch him play baseball if it weren't for those guys, the Jackie Robinsons, the Rube Fosters, Cool Papa Bell, Satchel, Josh, and Buck Leonard, and Buck O'Neill, and so many more. So it's so crucial that we keep their story alive and continue to tell it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm kind of veering off there a wee bit, but
no. It's there are so many things. Even if you take away the talent aspect of it, night baseball came out of the Negro Leagues before the major leagues had night baseball. The talent pipeline between the Dominican Republic and Major League Baseball was established by a former Negro Leagues owner and a former Negro Leagues player. The idea of, you want to talk about entrepreneurship and the American dream. Okay, you're going to tell me I can't do it with you? I'll just go do it myself. And so many great things that came out of the Negro Leagues that people need. These are stories that need to be heard and lessons that need to be learned. Absolutely.
Let's move on to Saber. You mentioned Saber.
We're going to Saber. I want to know about Hinchliffe Stadium. Is it still a working stadium, or can you just go and do it?
It's actually a really sad story. So now this actually leads perfectly into the little side story that I said that I had. So there is this ballpark, it's Hinchliffe Stadium is the official name. It's been used over the years for baseball, for football, for mini stock car racing, I believe, for boxing. It's really a sports venue, but the locals obviously have a lot of reasons to love it because, I was there doing photos one day and a guy pulled up. He's like, I remember coming here as a kid. Thank you so much for taking pictures. And he had no idea, what my project was or whatever. And he's, oh, I used to see, the boxing. And so the ballpark, if you look at it on a map, I keep saying ballpark, the stadium, if you look on a map, it is smack next to the second largest waterfalls on the eastern coast of the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And and it's actually has been made part of the Patterson Great Falls, I think it's National Park. I'm not positive. It says it on the back of one of my cards. And I've gone there tons of times to take pictures. Tons. I've parked right next to the stadium. The Larry Doby mural was not there at the time. I had no idea what I was parking next to. No idea. And the day that we went to take pictures and I was like, that's what that is? I felt like an idiot. You've got to be kidding me. This is that? So it's not open to the public anymore. It's horribly run down. You can see it a little bit from the pictures on my cards. So it's sad. The good news, though, is that, fingers crossed, there's going to be a groundbreaking on a major renovation, hopefully sometime in the next few months, possibly even as early as right around opening day. So maybe less than a month from now.
Wow, cool.
And so what the plans are for what the extent of that renovation is going to be and whether it's just going to be preserved from a historical standpoint or whether it's going to become a working venue again, I don't know. It's currently owned by the Patterson Public School System. So there's, obviously a lot of stuff there. But hopefully we're going to see, some major progress in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it's unfortunate politics always play a role in those kind of things and what kind of funding is in there, but we hope for the best. And
yeah,
if not, maybe we'll see another fundraiser and get that thing saved because
yes,
lots of legacy there right now, and it's such a not an easy fix, but an easy win to save something like that.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, if it weren't for the fact that, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it's kind of tied up in the whole bureaucracy of things, because it's prime real estate right next to that, that waterfall. And thank God somebody didn't level it and put up condos, So, silver linings.
Let's take it what we can get, that's the thing. We need to get some of that Nike money. If they're going to go spend $50 million on a track field, they can just siphon off $50 million to put in that stadium. No problem.
So now you're panhandling to Nike.
I'm not. So I haven't bought anything Nike in 20 years. So I have. So Donna knows. I went to Oregon State. So obviously Oregon being my rival, I've only bought 2 things of Nike, and it was all the same trip. I needed an Oregon State jersey and an Oregon State hat, and they're only made by Nike. So in the last 20 years, it's the only thing Nike I've ever bought.
Yeah, well, it's gonna get tough now because Major League Baseball is partnered with Nike. So
I run a vintage baseball jersey shop. I've got a long way to go before
Okay. Yeah. So John,
if they make a donation of $50 million, I could probably look past that. No problem.
That's true. That is true. Yes. Yeah. So you asked what's next. So what's next? Okay. So I have an idea in my head. Oh, you also want to talk about Sabre. I have an idea in my head for a second Hitchliff Stadium set that would focus more on the details of the ballpark. And, the really, the terracotta roof tiles and, the flagpoles that sit vacant now. So I would like to do that, but I want this set to have some time to kind of get circulated more before I do that. I wanted to go and do some of that photography, but we got hit pretty hard with snow. And Patterson, from what I understand, especially the area around the ballpark, was very difficult to maneuver. So now with things melting, I'm hoping to get back out with the camera and get down there again and at least start a portfolio of work, you know, for that. We'll see how it goes. So the other thing kind of ties into card art. And, you know, there's this whole, well, you know, I'm not licensed with Major League Baseball or the Players Association or Minor League Baseball. So, you know, I can go to the stadiums and take pictures up the wazoo, but all I can do is, you know, keep them for myself or give them, you know, as gifts to friends. And I want to be able to do more than that. And yeah, it would be nice to, you know, sell them and donate some of the money to charity and all. But again, it's about spreading joy. I mean, I know that sounds corny, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to try and do, and I know, you know, Jason, you and I have talked about this a little bit, is make one-of-one pieces of art that combine. So Allen and Ginter is one of the card sets that I really enjoy. And so I want to try and combine my pictures and cut Allen and Ginter cards. So I did a little concept art thing here. So it's a little goofy, but so let's see. So like, there's one example.
Wow, that's really cool.
He is the man himself.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I had no idea you were a CC guy, John. Had no idea. So there's one idea. So now this doesn't, you know, the card isn't actually on there. I scanned it and threw it in, but it would actually be the cut card. And then like another one would be like a ballpark, you know, and a player, you know. So that's, I'm very excited about that.
Those are really cool. I like it. Guys, I see the pictures right there. You knocked it out of the park. That's awesome.
So that'll be cool. So Saber.
Yep, let's talk about Saber. Not only did you get interviewed by Heavy J for Saber, but you are a member.
Yes, I am.
Talk about Saber.
6 weeks in. 6 weeks in as a member. Attending weekly virtual meetings now.
Oh wow!
Kind of cool. It's called the Elysian Fields chapter for Northern New Jersey, and sadly, I have not gone to Elysian Fields yet. But I know a lot of, you know, it's one of those things. It's there, and you don't get there. So I need to get there. But we've had every Monday, an hour and a half, hour meetings, depends, with guests that you know, talk about everything from, one of the guests last night was Lou Costello's grandson, you know, of Who's on First fame, among a million other things, right? And
that's just my webcam falling off my laptop.
Blooper reel. So
good thing it's live.
Yeah, right. So it's, you know, Saber is just a fantastic organization that a lot of people have misconceptions, and I understand why, that it's all a bunch of geeks sitting around crunching numbers. And, you know,
I'll have to admit that's exactly what I thought Saber was until I met Jason for the first time.
Yeah.
Jason Schwartz. I had it in my head that it was, you know, what's his name? The guy from Moneyball. Who's
Billy B.
Jonah Hill's character.
Yeah.
I just had an image in my head of a group of him all sitting crunching on numbers, but obviously it's so much more than that. Please continue. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's understandable why that's the perception, because hello, Bill James, in honor of Saber, named his analytics Sabermetrics. So there's just this assumption, and you just hear it, you know, constantly on broadcast now, Sabermetrics. So people say, oh, well, that's what it is. And I happened to be fortunate enough in my time volunteering at the Yogi Berra Museum they used to have once a year, I believe, they would have a kind of baseball prospectus roundtable there. So I got to, to kind of sit in on those and just see, hey, this is just a bunch of people sitting around shooting the breeze. I love baseball. Me too. What about this? Yeah. What about this? And so I'm fortunate to not have had that preconceived notion planted in my brain. And I just didn't have the time to get involved before now. So, again, silver linings from a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So
you take advantage of the time you have now. I mean, you think about all the times you was, gone out, seen friends, gone to movies, like that. It's great. I think that's what been probably my favorite part is rediscovering my hobbies again and the love of my hobby.
Yes.
You have to do that.
Yes. The hard part is going to be when, the norm starts up again, continuing to find time for this.
Yeah, but I think we've all watched everything on Netflix, on Hulu, Disney Plus. Like there's nothing coming out that we haven't seen. You have time to go do all this stuff.
Yeah.
How many seasons of Madden have you completed just in lockdown, Jason?
15. I've got 15. Players I recognize anymore, but yes, no, that's how I unwind, has been playing some Madden.
That's cool. So go ahead.
No, please continue. I was just going to ask you more about Saber and what it was like.
It's I'm looking forward to possibly doing some writing for them down the road, but the amount of information, and forget information, the amount of love of the game that is there is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, it exists. You see full stadiums and whatever, but there's a difference between wanting to go to a ballpark to watch a game and wanting to sit around with your friends or people that you've never met before and yap baseball for potentially hours on end. I mean, they have these giant conference things that unfortunately, didn't happen last year and won't happen this year, but it's just cool to know. And there's all these little specialties in there too. So if, stadiums are your thing, there's a committee for that. And if photography is your thing, there's a committee for that. And if baseball cards are your thing, there's a committee for that. And, everybody doesn't have to write, but everybody just gets to, in whatever way they want, share their love of the game. And that's what I think is most awesome about Saber.
No, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of points there, because I think you start up as a fan and you're a fan of what's on the field. And as you grow with your fandom, you start finding the things that are around the game that you enjoy more, And so you're always going to enjoy the game. The game's there and it can be on, but it's that pace of, the enjoyment of listening to the game on the radio, which a lot of people don't do anymore. And I think baseball is told best by radio. The aesthetics of baseball, there's the uniforms, there's the logos, and there's so much else around there that I think as you grow up, your fandom slowly increases, the more of those things that you find yourself attracted to, like you say, state or uniforms or baseball cards. And it's really interesting to see people's passion, because you can go just fall into the rabbit hole and really find out what your passion is about.
Right. And you can branch out into a lot of different things. I mean, there are people that, keep talking about Heavy J. I mean, Jason is such he's got such a magnetic personality that he gets other people excited about things that they maybe wouldn't have been excited about before. Did I think 3 months ago that I was going to have an interview on the Saber baseball cards blog and be talking about all that stuff and now be here with you guys doing a podcast? No, I just wanted to make a little card set. And, and it's the communication channels that this has opened. I'll tell you a crazy story. I got an email a couple of weeks ago from a woman. She says, I was wondering if you could tell me who Hinchliffe Stadium is named after. And I'm thinking to myself, who am I that like she's coming to me and asking me this history? I was like, okay, well, I guess, I put my card set out there. So, okay, fine. It turns out that her mother's maiden name is Hinchliffe.
Mhm.
But get this, she's the daughter of Carl Finley, co-owner of the Oakland A's, former co-owner of the Oakland A's.
Right. Again.
I'm like, what? And, we started having this whole conversation and dialogue about growing up in baseball, and that never would have happened if I didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so I said to her, hey, Saber. And she's like, oh, I should really look into Saber. Yes, look into Saber. I mean, not just from the standpoint of her growing up in baseball and wanting to devour as much baseball information as she can, but the stories that she must have.
Yes.
So Saber is great on a gazillion different levels. So join Saber if you're not already a member.
There is the Bobby Thompson chapter out here. I haven't joined it yet. But it's on the list of things to do there. I don't know how active they are out here. So I think that's one thing that kind of has put me off. It's been, baseball is a fairly new sport out here for people to get the fandom around. So the majority of people have been kind of following the last, say, 4 or 5 years, John, would you kind of say that? And then there's the hard group that have been fan for, as soon as, like, we always reference Johnny and Josh. And they had a show on BBC, and that was where you watched it on a Sunday night. You got 2 games a week, and you just kind of watched whatever game was on. So we watched a lot of Tampa Bay and Royals. Yeah, but it was baseball, so you're like, I got to watch what it is there.
Right,
so,
right. And one of the great things that Saber has really done very quickly is gotten a lot of their programming online. The world was kind of forced in that direction. But like I said, I go to a meeting every Monday night virtually. The speakers are there, and we sit just like this on a Zoom call. And, so we try and keep it going. Jason, here we go. His ears got to be ringing. His ears have got to be ringing. He did this great program right after Hank Aaron passed away, virtual program about the history of baseball cards as told through the cards of Hank Aaron.
Oh, wow.
And anybody, I'm sure I know it was recorded. Anybody can see that now. Doesn't matter where you are on the globe, doesn't matter what time of day it is. And, we all can kind of drop in on each other's chapter meetings, if there are. And, or when they did National Saber Day for the 50th anniversary, this year's the 50th anniversary of Saber. And, I sat in this chair and I watched Marty Appel, longtime Yankee, PR guy, interview Bob Costas live.
Yeah.
And so, okay, you ain't gonna rain on my parade, coronavirus. We're gonna do this and we're gonna figure out how. And, so we adapt. It's what we do. It's what we have to do.
No, I think it's great. I think that's been able to make more connections this way, and it's been fantastic. And I think going forward, you people will actually be able to meet in person. But I think you're going to have such a need for people that are going to watch it on Zoom calls or whatever we call it down the line there, because you have so much more information at your fingertips now that we did a year ago. That was kind of like, oh, no, I can't make a chapter meeting. I'll miss out. Someone will have to catch on the notes and like that there. Or now you're like, no, if you're not doing it recorded, people aren't going to turn in. I think you're going to get people involved that way.
Right. And the opportunity to take advantage of what's being offered by a chapter other than your home chapter is great. And, there was a couple of Saturdays ago, the Chicago chapter and the Milwaukee chapter did a joint meeting about the Negro Leagues. And they had Sean Gibson on. He hauled out his grandfather's MVP trophy during the meeting.
He brought it out. He wouldn't even do it for us. He brought
it out.
Not fair.
And, you know, and Larry Lester was on that call. And I was on another program a couple of weeks ago. Larry Doby Jr. was on. And you know, these are all things that if they weren't on Zoom, I'm not going to drive to Chicago for that or fly to Chicago for that. So hopefully that will all continue.
Yeah. Stephen, yes, I did find my razor. Thank you for noticing. I've been getting comments about this all week. Every time, I don't know what it is about when I shave, but anytime I shave for 3 or 4 days, all I hear about is, "Oh, have you shaved?" Yes. Grown man shaves beards. Well, breaking news. That's alert in the media.
It's pandemic talk. It's the way it goes now, right? It's like, well, you didn't have to. Why did you?
Yeah. So we've touched on baseball cards a bit, and Jason, I received a package from you a few days back.
It's true, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to point one out here that the excellent Ramon Mejia did. Can you guys see that?
Yep, we can see it.
Yes.
That's a Ramon Mejia card that I've been sent. So props to Ramon. Thank you so much for this. Jason, thanks for sending that stuff over. I'm going to...
The rest of the stuff. There's more stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm going to put up a post about it. My house is a complete mess just now. I am in the process of turning my back room into my podcasting studio. So I'm going to have everything displayed properly like you've got in the background there. So watch this space, everyone. But Donna, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you tonight. We have to do this again sometime. Now that we've gotten to know each other, we'll delve further into your work next time that we speak. Where can people watching find your social media channels?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at The Lens of Donna M. And then if you want to email me, it's the same, The Lens of Donna M @gmail.com. Excellent.
Once again, thanks, Donna, for joining us tonight. It's been great speaking with you. It's always good to have a Yankees fan on the show, Jason. Someone who appreciates real class. And again, Stephen Loudon, you are bards for that awful patter earlier about the Diamondbacks. I do look 10 years younger. Thank you for noticing. All right, you're back in the good book, Stephen. Stephen is unbanned because he's complimenting me on how young I look.
There you go.
Jason, people can find us on Facebook. We are, obviously live at the moment. It's facebook.com/caps and pipes or @caps and pipes in the search bar. It's Twitter @caps and pipes. Email us at capsandpipes@gmail.com. Ball caps and bagpipes on Instagram.
Ball caps and bagpipes on Instagram. Yep.
I
think ball caps and pipes on Twitter. Everything else is ball caps and bagpipes.
Correct. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Thanks again for coming on. It was brilliant to actually put a face to it. We've been chatting for so long now.
Absolutely.
It was awesome to talk to you, and I'm definitely going to take you up on a trip to New York sometime and you can show me around.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can go to Elijah Fields and Hincliffe Stadium, and I'm impressed. The only place I really want to go is New York, and is Yankee Stadium, and I might have to drag you to Citi Field, but you know what?
I love Citi Field. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Have a great night.
No problem, Donna. Fuck the Mets on 3.
What?
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Night, guys. Have a good one.